Welcome to the Apex Sunday podcast hosted by John Dowsett, myself, Robert Ross. And today we're talking about the Dutch Grand Prix for MotoGP. And John, to start out with this circuit, what are your thoughts? I mean, my thoughts are we saw lots of crashes
Yeah.
uh, in practice and so forth, and even in the races, but there's a lot of medium to high speed corners. It's not a stop and go whatsoever. It's sort of go all the time, go through fast corners, go through medium speed corners. So it seems to be a rhythm circuit. What are your thoughts on Assen?
I was shocked at the amount of bikes going down. It just seemed that, what did they say? And was it the first practice? I think it was. There were a quarter of the riders went down.
Yeah, it's got a reputation for that. Yeah.
Wow. Why? I mean, I don't get it. Is it the surface? Must be the surface. That's the only thing I can come up with.
I think it's the surface is slippery, grip is difficult, and the corners are fast, and so it's the perfect recipe for sliding. And like, I don't know, to skip ahead, if you saw Bezz, the two-wheel slide
Whoa,
through the corner.
How he saved that, I have no idea. Like, that's an incredible save.
Amazing to watch. And so I guess this circuit is slippery, and therefore it's easy to crash, and these high speed corners and medium speed corners, especially medium speed, at least for me, I always find them the most challenging to find the exact speed you need. You can go too slow and lose a hell of a lot of time, but if you go a bit too fast in a medium speed corner, you're done because you lose it.
My only guess is abrasiveness, and there isn't enough abrasiveness in the track, and because we didn't hear anything about people running out of tire either.
Right.
So that's my guess, is that you can, if you slide as much as these guys are sliding, you're just gonna destroy your tires or overheat them. So that can be my only guess, is that it's a very, very low abrasive track.
So when you were racing, did you have a circuit like this where there was no rest, like a very small straight, and then the rest is just all corners?
Yeah. No.
No.
kind of. Shannonville's kind of like that.
Shannonville's a bit like that.
But there two shorter straights that are, I would almost call them chutes instead of straights.
Right.
But yeah, and not my favorite kind of track to be on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So in qualifying, we saw once again Fabio Quartararo on pole, way ahead of all the other Yamahas, and obviously he's falling back during the races unless he gets out front and never gets past, in which case he can keep his rhythm and the tires in good condition. But again, talking about tires, like, he takes up all of his tires to get that pole position. And that's the difference between a fast single lap and racing laps, where inevitably he just falls back because you can't do that to your tires for lap after lap after lap,
right,
and get that speed, right? But, still you're going to use different tires in the race anyways. So why not go for full on qualifying? But you start the race with full fuel, new tires, and the Yamaha just is not good yet in those kind of conditions. So,
but it is like at the start, he starts well, and I don't understand the physics of how a bike can chaw through tires. It's not like a car that has, one car has more downforce or less downforce, which is going to highly affect the degradation of your tire. But on a bike, there's no downforce really.
He has said himself that the tires wear down during the race, and to get that kind of speed, you need to use the tires more. And most of the riders talk about it's when they're on the side, it's the side of the tires that suffer.
Of course.
The side when you're leaning and going through those.
Of
So
course. Yeah.
Assen is just nonstop all corners, so you're going to wear down the sides faster,
Right.
and so Fabio's going to suffer from that. So I think that's what it is. We saw Alex very fast. Pecco was very fast in qualifying. Marc for a change was on the second row, but it usually doesn't matter if Marc is not on pole position. He makes up for it during the race, right? So, and again, this is back to what we're just talking about, where Fabio has to use all his tires to get that kind of lap speed for one lap. Marc can get a fast lap in qualifying or not, but he's always fast in the race and uses his tires well. So,
well, he's wily during the race, isn't he?
Yes.
He's a very, very, very smart rider. It just comes to him, I think.
Yeah. So, that's what I took from qualifying. Once again, Fabio really fast. Not sure why Marc wasn't on the front row. I think he's only got 2 wins here before, but so it's not one of his greatest circuits. But anyways, any other thoughts on qualifying?
Other than just how messy it was, no.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the sprint, and I'll say, watching other podcasts, reading articles, everyone's talking about Marc winning again as a third consecutive sprint and race win. And then I guess the thing is, Alex never passed him. And to me, this reminded me of Imola, where years ago it was Schumacher and Alonso, where the entire race, one right behind the other, couldn't get it done. And then the next season it was flipped over, where it was either one or the other behind them. Exact same situation where one of the drivers or riders, whatever you're talking about, is faster than the one in front of them at certain parts of the circuit, but they place their car or bike as such that they can never get past.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw this in the sprint, and Alex Marquez, because he's the brother of Marc Marquez, was accused of taking it lightly and not trying to pass Marc. But to me,
farcical.
When I saw that, I thought, if he tried to pass him, he's going to crash both of them out or one of them out, and you're not going to score any points. You pass when you can, and sure, there's sometimes when you throw it in there, but I did not see any opportunity to do that during the sprint or with Bezz in the race. Again, because of the nature of this circuit, where it's just so fast that you're not going to go into a hairpin where you get an opportunity to pass very well. So we saw, other riders pass until they got to Marc, and then they couldn't pass Marc.
Yeah.
So for me, again, what we were just saying about Marc being wily and so forth, he is, like, if you want a complete racer, Marquez is definitely an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's got the talent and he's got the mind and the vision and the ability, I think, to me, to protect that lead and place the bike exactly where you need to for 13 laps in the sprint and 26 or whatever for the race is incredible ability. And it's no mistakes. And you saw the bikes on edge. Like, Alex was on edge trying to get to Marc, but it just wasn't possible. And we saw Pecco fall back once again in the sprint, and as we just discussed, Quartararo falling back and pushing so hard he eventually crashes. But like you said, farcical about this whole Alex trying to pass Marc. What are your thoughts on them being so close for the entire sprint?
I don't think I'd blow quite as much sunshine on Marc. He knows how to drive defensively, but he also has a very fast bike, and it's back down to You have to have a certain amount of speed to be able to pass somebody lap after lap after lap. So you have to be able to look at it, and depending on the track, that could be half a second quicker around the lap. It could be a second faster around the lap. You have to be a lot quicker to pass on that track, or you have to be you have to stick your nose in there. There were some passes with people sticking their nose in. There was contact. There, does he want to does Alex want to lose his chance of coming in second or even possibly winning the championship and losing points by doing that? Absolutely not. So, there's a fair amount of that. There's a fair amount of knowing where to put your bike. There's the undercut, which sometimes works. There's going around the outside, which sometimes works. But it's not going to work on this track.
No.
Without contact. No. Which is just too perilous.
Yeah, you got to take them by surprise and so forth. And there just wasn't a spot for him to do it. Like on the right-hand corners, he was right up to Marc. And then when the lefts came, Marc pulled ahead.
Exactly.
And so it was just, push and pull, and it just didn't happen. So,
and on top of that, the further down the grid you go, if you're in 15th place, you got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose. And so that's where you're going to see the great dicing. But you got to protect your points.
Yeah, it's definitely, Marc has to do that too, right? Like Marc has to do that as well. He's got a lot of margin now, but he understands that margin can disappear very quickly, as we saw in the race with Alex crashing out and losing a bunch of points, right? So,
and not only that, but he can crash out 3 races in a row, and guess what? It's right back there.
Yeah. So moving on to the race, before we go to that, love the Yamaha special livery for the day. Wish they'd use some of these special liveries instead of the liveries that they have, but that's the way it goes. In the race, we saw Marc do exactly what he did in the sprint, but he waited until lap 5 to get to the front. And I think this is a case of, again, waiting for the rear tire to wear down a little bit so it's a bit more slippery, so he can be more aggressive and make some passes. We saw Alex strangely fall back at the beginning and eventually have that dust up with Pedro Acosta and fall out.
Yeah.
Break his finger. And we saw Bezz make his way through the field. But again, once he got to Marc, he couldn't get through Marc. And we saw Pecco fall back a little bit, fall back behind Bezz, and Pedro came back and passed Pedro, but he could never get past Bezz. So, it's the speed of your bikes and the different manufacturers. And so those top 3 just could not get to each other, but we did see passing downfield. So
saw some great
racing. And again, that 2-wheel slide by Vizecki. I've watched that replay over and over again.
It's might be the highlight of the season.
It's
seriously, like that's, a hair away from a high side, and some of the high sides were just horrific. That, like, it made me wince looking at that stuff. I thought it was a great race. I loved it. A lot of higher DNFs than normal, I guess, to be expected. But it was incredible. I loved it. The start was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I will say this though. In 2018, we had over 100 passes on this circuit during the race, and that was when there was little aero and not all these devices. And back again to this passing issue, it's harder to pass with these bikes, especially when they're close to the similar speed. So again, when 2027 comes along with less aero and less devices, I'm hoping we'll get more passing on a circuit like this. But Marc is a winning machine because if we count the sprints and the races this season so far, he's got 15 wins, 9 sprints, 6 races. Alex has 2, 1 race, 1 sprint. Zarco has 1 race win. Bezz has 1 race win. Pecco has 1. So, and Marc has 6 poles and Fabio has 4. So 15 wins to Alex's 2, and then the other 3 have 1. So at the beginning of this year, you said it looks like it's going to be a boring year because Marc dominated the first 2 races. He's won the last 3 races, but they've been good races, right?
Very good,
regardless of him winning, right? So
also Pecco didn't come out very strongly. I mean, he came out with some pretty weak performance, and he's starting to get it now. So you know, there could be some nice challenges in the future.
In the race, at least. In the sprint, he seems to lose it. But and back to like Pecco's having difficulties. But another thing I'd like to bring up is Brad Binder. He's the last 2 or 3 races, he said he's completely lost on the KTM, and he's the last KTM. And usually he's really, really, really fast. He's really struggling. And the word is that this KTM is a smooth bike, so you need to ride it smoothly. And Brad Binder is not a smooth rider. He's let's throw it in, and you know, that kind of thing. And the same with Joan Mir in Honda. I think Pedro too, Acosta, said like he's trying to be more smoother on the KTM, and he was up ahead of Maverick in the top 10 in the races. But it goes back to what we we're talking about last podcast, where some of these top riders who have won races and championships, they go on different bikes where the bikes change and they're completely lost. And it's happened to Brad as well. So we'll see what happens there.
I have a problem with a smooth, the whole smooth thing, because you have to be smooth. I mean, everything has to be smooth or you're done. And you've got to be able to throw the bike around. You have to. If you're going to be out front, you have to. I mean, if you want to go diving up the inside of somebody, man, you got to be able to throw it down to get around the corner.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that is just telling of, you know, if you ride it like it's a smooth bike, then, you know, maybe you'll get up there into 8th or 9th position, but you aren't going to win.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know. It's to me, I guess it's like the from what they say, the throttle and the traction very sensitive. So what I think when they mean smooth is basically the throttle and preserving the tires, and not banging on the throttle and flinging the bike around like that Brad likes to do, or from what I can tell from what I've seen in the past. It kind of reminds me of, again, like we've seen Marc adapt very quickly to when he went from the Honda to the Ducati last year and this year, and he's always improving. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of Schumacher. Like when I went to the second Canadian Grand Prix that I went to, Schumacher was driving like Villeneuve. He was all over the place. And I remember Heinz-Harald Frentzen saying, you know, oh, today Michael was driving very smoothly like Prost, and then on another circuit he'll be like Villeneuve. So he adapts very, very well. But you know, I've said in the past, when we say smooth, to if I got in a car on a bike with a smooth driver or rider, I would think it was violent as hell in a racing car or bike, right?
So no, not necessarily. You
no?
know, and it comes. It's. I mean, obviously you just can't snap on the throttle. You can't do that with any of these machines at the top level. It
Yeah.
the key difference with Schumacher, I don't want to keep on stepping back to cars, but the big difference with cars is rotation and being able to rotate the car, understeer,
Mm.
oversteer. How do you get the car to rotate? And there's some corners that, yeah, you're going to have to, throw the back end out to get around the corner. It's the only way around the corner,
Yep.
or it's the fastest way around the corner, I guess I should say.
Right.
This is not the case with the motorcycle. How often do you see these guys throw the back end out so they can rotate the bike? It's not going to happen.
Well, you do a little bit, but it's very subtle, I think, right?
Very, very subtle. Yeah.
And they use the rear brake to. It's yeah, it's not as easy to get as a car, but I can say that did see the bikes just shivering and shimmying all over the place
Yeah.
this race as well. So yeah, and I guess the last thing to talk about is we had Bezecchi on the podium in the sprint and the race,
Yes.
third and second. Marco's bike in the race was just all over the place as well. It looked like he's on the edge. But every time Marco gets on the podium, we have a word from Jorge Martin, in this case, his lawyer, saying that he's completely free to ride for any team next season.
Yeah.
And Aprilia is saying, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're not. We're going to discuss this and work it out, or we're going to go to court. So we'll see where that goes. But I don't see Martin driving or riding for Aprilia next season if that's his attitude.
Well, listen, if that was my team, I'd want to be able to replace him with a top driver.
Yeah.
Where does the sponsorship come from? And if somebody's coming up with mega dollars, I don't know how much sponsorship Martin brings, but I'm sure it's a fair amount. Now all of a sudden we don't have Martin. It's like, well, why am I sponsoring you? I'm sponsoring you because even if you don't do well, I can hold up this guy at events and say, races for our team. Obviously, he has faith in our bike. Yeah, we came in 63rd this year, but we have faith.
I'm just curious though if he's going to be kind of like the Alonso of MotoGP, where he's chasing the best team and he chases them until they're not the best team. I mean, the Aprilia isn't bad this year. We had the rookie Iogura doing fairly well, at least at the beginning. Injured himself, but he still scored some points on this race and last race. But we have Bezecchi on the podium.
Yeah.
A couple times now in a race win, and he qualified fifth. So that's not bad. And Martin's a great qualifier. So Martin has a better reputation than Bezecchi. So you can think of Martin on the Aprilia as being probably very competitive, and on the Honda, maybe not. The Honda's all over the place at the moment. Yes, Honda has way more money than Aprilia, so they can throw more resources at it. They have more concessions than Aprilia, so they can develop more. So maybe that's what he's looking at, but we'll see how it all works out.
Mm-hmm.
So next up is the Sachsenring in Germany. Again, this is a Marc Marquez specialty where he won 7 consecutive times in a row in MotoGP. I think he won 2 times in a row in Moto2, maybe even once at Moto3 or 125. So that's 10 consecutive races.
Lots of left turns.
Until 2020, until his injury. So it's going to be, it could be the 4th double in a row, or he could crash out again like he did at Kodo, which is also one of his circuits. But given his recent mentality and his ability, I predict that he will probably win both. So in terms of what's your rider and rating of this event?
Bezecchi.
Bezz is your rider?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean that was a phenomenal performance. Not be on the fastest bike and to do what he did.
Yeah.
Managing tires, probably. And I'd give it a solid 9.
Right. Okay, I'm going to give it a 7. Enjoyed it, but like I said, 2018, totally different race, different bikes though. Rider, I'm going to again give to Marc. I just really, really impressed by what he did at this circuit. And
well, to crash like he did and hop right back on the bike and get fastest
yeah,
lap of the session.
yeah, and
More than once. Jesus.
just all those expectations and pressure on him from the public, from his team. Everyone
From his
expects
dad.
him. Everyone expects him to like. What is it like to be expected to be the best all the time? And then again, what is it like to actually be the best most
It's
of
great.
the time?
It's great.
Right.
No, it's
Well, he
wonderful.
seems to have a lot of fun, doesn't
Well,
he?
it gives you, it just sort of cements the confidence, which is the number one thing these guys have to have. You know, they all got there for a reason. All of those riders got to MotoGP for a reason. They're the best. And I would hazard a guess that I'm gonna sound weird. I'm gonna sound like a fanboy, but you know, if you aren't Marc Marquez, I think if you put anybody else on his bike, they would be close to where he is. I'm thinking. I could be wrong, but you know, they're all great riders, and it's a matter of confidence. They have the confidence to do it. Yeah.
It reminds me of this whole thing of bikes and the different performance we see going back to F1 and Red Bull. Like, how is it that the second driver of the Red Bull can be absolutely nowhere and the first driver can be at the very top? Like, the contrast is huge. And again, these are drivers that came up through the entire system and have won races in the previous or the lower classes, and they get in that Red Bull and they're nowhere.
Losing is humiliating. Humiliation destroys confidence. And to be dominated, I've been dominated on the ski hill when I was a ski racer. There was one season where somebody I couldn't get anywhere near them. Like, I couldn't get anywhere near them. It'd be like racing a car against Gilles Villeneuve. You know, just forget about it. You know, give me the same skis and you'd still be way faster than me. It's humiliating and it takes you down. And so now you're in the start gate or at the start of a race, and what's going through your head? You know, it's not, you know, I'm on the second row. No biggie. I'm the best. No.
Yeah.
You've been humiliated. So there's that. And there's also the fact, more so in car racing, I believe, but it could be in bikes as well, that the best of the best goes to, you know, the number one rider, number one driver.
Right.
And it's set up for them. And I don't know how much that counts in bikes. Counts a lot in cars. Counts a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I can't drive a pointy car, and you know, neither can the number 2 driver at Red Bull. Neither could the number 2 driver to Michael Schumacher, who liked a really pointy car. Nobody likes a pointy car, but they do. So
but it seems to some of the champions seem to love like an oversteering, loose back end.
Well, here's
with Marc
again. This doesn't really, again, for, you know, this production, but it's really simple, and that is if you can control that pointy car and drive it like any other car, when it comes time when you have to rotate your car in a corner by throwing the back end out, there's no effort at all. Whereas a smooth car, it's kind of difficult to rotate the car sometimes. So,
and then if you lose that back end, you lose a lot of time, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and I think the analogy in MotoGP is Marc talked about he had like a 66% lean angle once, and he said, I didn't want to do that, but that was the only way to get the Honda to turn. I had to do that to get that way. And that's the difference between him and the other riders, is that most of the time he can do on the bike what it needs to be done to get it to perform well
Frightening.
and without crashing. But he does
Right.
crash a lot. You know, it's just, yes. So it's a fine line with him. And that's why it's so impressive that he can do that over and over and over again and find that. So anyways, all right, great talking to you again, John, and looking forward to Sachsenring, which again is a circuit you must love because of the elevation changes are massive.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on the Marquez show, and
No problem.
yeah.
Talk to you later. Bye.